Hello, my name is Tanya and today I'll be presenting my pitch on emotional abuse. In this pitch I'll be talking about what emotional abuse is, the signs of emotional abuse, and everything that my short film will include. According to the University of Illinois Counselling Centre, emotional abuse is verbal and constant criticism to more tactics such as intimidation and refusal to ever be pleased. Here is a voice note of someone that has been both physically and emotionally abused.
I was placed in care about 6 months old, went to live with a foster family, right? I was sexually abused from about the age of 7 to 12, right? They actually physically abused me, they beat me, have still got injuries to this day, right, from the beatings I got from this family. But the emotional abuse was far worse than anything else. They never once cuddled me, they never once told me they loved me. I just was never cuddled or anything as a child, and that has been by far the worst abuse, right, that I've suffered. It's not had a knock on my physical, my relationships with my family. I don't trust people. My husband has had to cuddle with terrible mood springs and such strength and things like that. He knows where he's coming from. He's been so understanding. He's wonderful. I want to go back to breaking the cycle of abuse, right? I automatically knew I had to break that cycle of abuse with my children. I knew it was wrong, right? But I now suffer from a social phobia where I can't trust people, right? So my life is curtailed to virtually going nowhere. And obviously that's had a knock-on effect on my husband and children. And believe you me, emotional abuse is far worse than anything else.
This shows that emotional abuse does get unnoticed and that is a serious case, especially since this woman thought that the emotional abuse was far worse than physical abuse. 84% of women say that emotional abuse is the worst type of abuse to experience. Therefore, this shows the need for more awareness and more action to stop this from happening. This is a graph of how many people in the UK have suffered from these 3 types of abuse: emotional, physical and sexual. 77.8% is the biggest number on this graph, and that is the amount of emotional abuse people have suffered in the last 12 months ever in the UK. Here is a graph of the domestic abuse incidents reported in England. From 2007 to 2012, the number has gone up by 200,000. This graph presents the number of people who have been domestically abused and have asked for help. Here are some of the signs of emotional abuse. Emotional abuse can cause serious mental illnesses, such as psychological trauma, anxiety disorder, or even clinical depression. Younger people tend to be more affected because children are more vulnerable. This brings me on to my purpose of production. Emotional abuse shouldn't be taken lightly, as it can have a damaging effect on someone's future. I have chosen 12 to 18-year-olds as my target audience because they are still going through school years and bullying happens a lot during school. I want to make this film because it grabs people's attention and makes them realise that emotional abuse should not be taken lightly and should be taken more seriously. The scars that hurt the most are often unseen. This quote is by someone who is unknown, and this could suggest that they have been emotionally abused as well, but they don't want to be known. This brings me on to my style. My short film, On the Outside Looking In, will be between 30 to 40 minutes long. In my audience research, I have found out that the younger audience like their news short, like the 60-second news. I've chosen social realism as my genre because I can portray emotional abuse more realistically. Here are some of the graphs I've created. I undertook some primary research by creating a questionnaire about emotional abuse. I asked people within the target audience to fill out my questionnaire. I handed it out to 10 people. Here is a graph that shows how many people have seen charities about emotional abuse. 20% of my audience have said no, while 80% have said 20% of my audience have said no, yes, and 80% of my audience have said no. This shows how little awareness there is for emotional abuse. Here's another graph that shows what people think if there's enough awareness about emotional abuse. 100% of my audience have said no. This shows that there needs to be more attention towards emotional abuse. Here's a graph on what the audience feel the ages that suffer from emotional abuse the most. 10% of my audience have said 18 and over. 30% have said 15 to 18-year-olds, and 60% have said 11 to 14-year-olds. This shows that people think that the younger ages are more vulnerable to emotional abuse. This graph shows if anyone's ever witnessed someone being emotionally abused. 80% have said yes, and then 20% have said no. So it shows that emotional abuse is very common. This is a graph asking if you have been a victim of emotional abuse. 40% have said rather not say, 20% have said no, and 40% have said yes. % of my audience thought that both genders suffer from emotional abuse, while 20% have said female. More people feel that women suffer from emotional abuse more, but when really all genders suffer from emotional abuse. This graph shows how many of my audience have ever emotionally abused someone. 50% have said no, 10% have said rather not say, and 40% have said yes. The 10% shows that they're clearly ashamed of what they have done to someone. This brings me on to my target audience. My target audience are between the ages of 12 to 18. I've chosen this age range because people within that range can relate to the short film because they might have experienced it during school years due to bullying. Over 1,400 young people have talked to Childline about racist bullying last year. More than 16,000 people are absent to school due to bullying. This brings me on to my unique selling point. My short film is different from the rest because it's an interactive story idea. The audience gets to choose which pathway the story can end. This can be done through Twitter hashtags. There will be 3 options. He tells mum, bottled it up, and suicide. This is a great way of engaging the audience because they get to feel like they're really a part of something and they get to talk to one another about what they think should happen. X Factor also uses these hashtags for the voting system and it clearly gets people engaged. There are other short films that have been made about emotional abuse, but none have been an interactive story idea. There's a website dedicated to short films, which is called Short of the Week. Loads of short films have been made on here about all teenage issues. This brings me on to my costs. With 20 to 150k, I can produce a high quality, on-screen value, strong storytelling narrative on subjects with real impact, making it as real as possible. With an interactive story idea, it won't cost anything extra due to it being on a social media website. The audience is between 12 to 18, the latter part of my audience, will likely be awake if it's aired at 9 p.m. 12A allows 12-year-olds to watch videos with swearing depending on the context. Nothing too disturbing though, because we don't want to scare them. There will be catch-up for people that do miss the first show, but you'll need your parents' permission to be able to watch this. With parents' permission, they would have to give their email confirming that you are able to watch it. This brings me to the end of my pitch. If you have any questions to ask me, please do. If not, then I hope you have enjoyed this pitch, and hopefully I'll be able to work with you later on.
I have one question actually. After this film goes out, and you potentially can choose your outcome and the ending, what next? How are you going to keep up this awareness? What is your next plan?
To create the next part of the film and then make it a second part. So there'll be a first part to it, and then we'll count up the votes, and then once the votes have been all in, so there'll be a deadline, we can then put the second part of the film up, depending on what they've chosen.
So that would be a separate episode as opposed to the ending of that first episode?
Yep, so end on a cliffhanger on the first one, and then the second one will be the second part.
Okay, and finally, what do you really think makes you different? How are you going to spread awareness nationally? What makes you different?
Since it's all on social media, it will start trending, so more and more people will see it, which will engage more people to watch it, and hopefully we'll get a bigger audience, and then people will start to understand what emotional abuse really is, and it will start maybe make them think about whether they have been ever emotionally abused, and have they said anything, have they spoken up about it or not.
Okay, thank you. It sounds very educational, and I would like to get in touch soon. Thank you.
Thank you.